ask to Sri Raju Narayanaswamy, Secretary of General Education of the Government of Kerala, to deliver a speech on traditional tribal medicine and its impact on public health.
Today afternoon, as I stand before you, I literally feel like a boat drawn on the beach, listening to the dance music of a joyous ride. And I do not want to stand between your right to lunch and right to a participatory healthcare, and I assure to finish in 5 minutes. Okay, the topic of the day is traditional knowledge of herbs, a milestone in Indian traditional medicines. I will start by quoting the definition of biodiversity, because biodiversity is central to any aspect connected to tribals, and this is the definition courtesy Vandana Shiva herself. The value of biodiversity to human health is its most obvious benefit of the large proportion of pharmaceutical armamentarium that is derived from the natural world. And let us not forget that over 50% of the commercially available drugs are based on bioactive compounds extracted from non-human species. As regards the global market for herbal products, it is exploding, estimated to reach 5 trillion by 2020. And the Indian subcontinent is the richest emporia of 2,500 plant species which are used in indigenous treatment. Okay, these are the basic features of the Indian traditional medical system, and a number of medicinal plants are used by the tribal people of India for centuries, and they have found wide acceptance and relevance in other systems of medicines also. Okay, what is the peculiarity of tribal knowledge in medicines? It's a fivefold peculiarity. One is that learning through repetition. This is a characteristic of tribal traditions. Second is that most of these traditions are transmitted orally or through expression and demonstration. Third, you have tacit knowledge, and therefore it is not easily codifiable. Fourth, it is experimental rather than theoretical knowledge through trial and error method, tested in the precise laboratory of local communities. And fifth, and the most important, is that it is dynamic and it is produced by external observers. I would just like to make a brief reference on the study conducted by the All India Coordinated Project on Ethnobiology. The findings were as follows. The tribal healers use their own system of healthcare with plant and animal extracts, faith and mystic rituals. Over 10,000 wild plant species are reported to be used by tribals for meeting their primary healthcare, food and other materials requirements. They use over 3,900 species of plants for edible purposes, 8,000 varieties for medicinal uses, and 1,000 for fodder, fiber and assorted purposes. We have the classic case of a group of scientists encountering the practice of a tribe by name Kani, who eat the seeds of a wild plant locally called Arogya Pacha. This gives them the energy to help them thrive periods of physical exertion. The plant has been investigated and scientifically validated, including by the scientists of the Tropical Botanical Garden Research Institute, and a drug called Jeevani has been released for commercial production in 1995. It is important to note here that while transferring the technology for production of the drug to a pharmaceutical firm, the TBGRI has agreed to share the license fee on a 50-50 basis, and 2% of the royalty from the sales goes to the tribal communities. The traditional tribal knowledge system is now showing a declining trend because of decreased motivation among the tribal communities. And the tribal communities settled inside or near the forest are facing restrictions in accessing resources. They are facing threats of a high degree by the use of modern medicine, and the large number of tribal healers is now a neglected lot, and the tradition is dying out fast without any patronage. Coming now to the question of globalization, IPR over life forms has led to the construction of biodiversity as a private resource, and there have even been several cases of biopiracy of traditional knowledge from India. Examples are patent on wound healing properties of haldi, that is turmeric, hypoglycemic properties of bitter gourd, brinjal, the patent granted on neem as a fungicide, etc. And in fact, the TRIPS agreement is aiding the exploitation of biodiversity by privatizing biodiversity expressed in life forms and knowledge. TRIPS makes no reference to the protection of traditional knowledge. It does not acknowledge or distinguish between indigenous community-based knowledge and that of industry. And traditional medicine is intertwined with access to biological and genetic resources and with the knowledge of local and indigenous communities regarding their therapeutic properties. We had the classic case of a forest village in Madhya Pradesh, in which the traditional medicine man knows only little about the medicinal plants today because the knowledge has not been transmitted to him. We have also the case of Barelipur, which is a classic Govt village with a population of only 359 people, where the Phumka, that is a traditional medicine man, is restricted from collecting herbs, fruits and nuts from the forest, which is clearly a violation of the Forest Rights Act of 2006. So where do we go from here? A plan of action. The tribal community involvement of resource management plans, which has to be based on traditional knowledge. It could be fundamental to the overall success of biodiversity conservation. And TK can also be used to involve indigenous peoples in identifying the key cost-effective indicators that might be most appropriate for monitoring the overall impact of resource use. There is need, of course, for the governments to formally recognize the role of traditional medicine in providing healthcare and their contribution to economic development. The enhancement of food security, biodiversity preservation and local progress requires the democratic empowerment of local biological knowledge forms and practices. And last but not least, an alternative biodiversity paradigm that benefits the nature and empowers knowledge and life of the poorest of the poor among the tribal people must be urgently explored and not discarded. I will conclude by quoting from the famous words of Kunti Devi, who advised Raja Dharma to her eldest son Yudhishthira. She said, Nivartaswa Kurukshetra Bhima Senadi Bhisaha Dharmede Dhiyadam Buddhi Namaste Mahadastucha. Which means that for a responsive and responsible administration, people must be the center point. That is true about healthcare as well. Long years ago, we made a tryst with destiny, and now the time comes to redeem our pledge, not wholly or in full measure, but very substantially. I feel that we are at such a historic moment where we should ensure that the soul of a traditional medicine which has long been suppressed finds its utterance and is properly integrated into the healthcare system. Thank you.